Hello again. In this video, we will be setting up your office within the Maptician system and then going on to create a basic floor plan. My intention is to have you follow along with me in order for you to understand the basic steps of getting started. Before you create a map, you will need to have a file source for your office's dimensions and layout. This can come in the form of a PDF, DWG, or any other CAD file. If you do not have a file like this, we recommend you contact your building manager, building architecture firm, or interior designer. While it is entirely possible for you to set up your floor plan without a file like this, it helps to have the reference measurements to make the maps quickly and as accurately as possible. If you get your hands on an original IFC file, Maptician is able to directly accept that into its system. Just let a representative know and we will happily help get it set up. As for the other file types, there are a set of external tools that we recommend in order to get the measurements from your files. You're welcome to take our recommendations. However, it is ultimately up to you to use whatever you are most comfortable with. For PDFs, we have found that Bluebeam Revu is very helpful in scaling documents for accurate measurements. For Bluebeam, you want your PDF to be high resolution and vectorized. This will allow for the measurement guide to clearly snap to points on the map. If your PDF is a scanned version of a paper document, it may not be vectorized, and, depending on its age, it may be a bit grainy. It is still possible to take measurements from a document like this. However, the accuracy of the measurements will be a bit compromised. When using this tool, you will need to make sure that the scale of your map is an accurate reflection of real-life dimensions. The easiest way to do that would be to use a door frame or another object that you know the exact measurements of. Single doors are almost universally 3 feet wide, so that's usually a safe go-to. To calibrate the map, you will need to go to the Tools menu, locate the measurement tools, and select Calibrate. Follow the prompts and select 2 outer points of a door frame, then input 3 feet and complete. Hit Save. Now the file is calibrated for measuring. If you are using Bluebeam, you will be returning to it often to get reference measurements for wall distances, thicknesses, and placements throughout the map creation process. For CAD or DWG files, we recommend the AutoCAD DWG TrueView as it can open most of those files. The beauty of CAD files is that they will often have the exact measurements of the map already within the document itself. To refer to those measurements, locate the Measure Distance tool at the top. Select 2 points that you want to find the distance of, and the measurement will appear at the bottom of the screen. From here, you can return to your Maptician file and create your floor plan. For the rest of this video, I will be referring to a PDF in Bluebeam, mainly so that you can see how the measurements taken in this document translate directly to Maptician. Now, before we create a map, we need to set up an office that the map will be attached to. To do this, you will need to log in if you haven't done so already. Then, locate the Offices page on the left side navigation menu. Here, you will see that we already have a couple of other test offices. For the purposes of this video, we will set up an office together. Locate the Create Office button at the top of the screen. Once selected, you will see a pop-up window asking for your office's information. Fill it in accordingly. If you do not know the exact square footage, you can use an approximation and change it at a later time. Select your time zone and then click Next. If you have an office manager in the system, feel free to specify them. We can also do this at a later time. If you would like to, fill in the additional information. When done, click Next. In the last section, you can upload an image of your office. Again, you're able to do this at a later date. It's recommended that you have pictures for all of your offices in your organization if it has more than one location. This way, you can easily differentiate between locations and get the most out of your Maptician account. Complete the profile and give Maptician a couple seconds to update. Your office should appear in the office list. Now, you will be able to begin your floor plan. Locate the map editor on the left. Before we begin a new map, I would like to touch on some basic navigation rules for opening maps. Let's pretend we need to open an existing map to make changes. To do this, we will go to Load Map. You will then be shown a list of offices on the left and their corresponding maps on the right. When selecting a map, it is important to see if the map is locked or checked out by someone else. If they are, the green lock icon you see here will be red or orange and locked with the name of the person who's using it beside it. This is done so that changes made by multiple people do not override others. Only one person can have a map locked at a time. If you need access to a map, you can let the person know so that they can save their changes and close or release the map for use. There is also a way to release the map yourself through our map management portal. We will touch on that in another video. Back to the map creation process. You will select New Map. In the pop-up window, select the office that you want this map to be under. We will be selecting the demo office. Then hit Next. Now, fill in the map information like name, dimensions, floor number, and suite number. For your map dimensions, we can refer back to our Bluebeam document. To ensure that you create a map canvas big enough to work on, you will want to take the measurement of a space that is larger than your floor plan. Locate the measurement tool in Bluebeam and expand a line from one end of the file to the other. Make sure you do this for the width and the height of the document. Input those dimensions to the pop-up in Maptician. Now you will have a blank canvas to begin your map. There will be 4 parts in this video to give you an outline of the entire map making process. First, we will be creating the general architecture of the floor plan. Then, we will add some minor details like doorways, desks, and cubicles where needed. After that, we will be going through and labeling rooms and zones. Lastly, we'll be placing data points and seats wherever someone will need to be assigned. These steps will give you a fairly accurate representation of your floor plan that will be usable in the Maptician system. After this video, you are more than welcome to go back and add more detail to your map. To begin, we will need to go back to our original document and see where we want to start. Ideally, you want to pick a side or a corner of the building that has the most straight walls meeting at a right angle. You want to get the measurement for the wall thicknesses and an initial wall length. Go to the measurement tool and select 2 points of this wall to find the thickness. The dimension in this case is 1 foot 6 inches. Now you want to take the length of the wall. This wall is about 63 feet. Go back to Maptician, go to the Objects tab, Architecture tab, then click Wall. Click and drag your first wall. Don't worry if it's not perfect. Make sure you have the wall selected, then locate the Wall Info tab and click Dimensions. Make the wall length 63 feet and make the wall width 1 foot 6 inches. If your wall is not perfectly horizontal, make sure the degrees are set to either 0 or 180. Whether you use 0 or 180 depends on which end the starting point is on. If you want to change the starting point, you can go to the wall info and change the starting point of the wall to the opposite side. Usually the starting point can be on either side. However, it's important to note that the wall will rotate around wherever the starting point is whenever you adjust the angle. Here, the wall is at 180. Look at how it changes when I increase the degrees. Next, you will need to measure the wall perpendicular to this one. Let's go back to Bluebeam. The portion of this wall is 45 feet long. Now, to double check, let's make sure that the wall thickness is still 1 foot 6 inches. With these measurements, we will return to Maptician. Select Wall under Architecture and then bring your mouse to the end of the previous wall. Click and drag to draw the new wall straight down from here. You don't have to worry too much about the exact length, as we can go and fix this in the Wall Info tab afterwards. Now go to the Wall Info tab and place 45 feet and 2 inches as the wall length, and 1 foot 6 inches for the width. If your wall doesn't look to be perpendicular to the first wall, then you can make sure that it's 90 degrees from the horizontal wall. In this case, the wall should be at about -90 degrees. Now that we have the starting point, you can go back to the original file. From here, you can start building out some of your interior walls. Our goal is to build out from this corner until we eventually circle around to complete the exterior shape. The following steps will be repeatable until the framework of the building is complete. To do the interior walls, you want to measure the distance from one of the exterior walls to the interior wall of your choice. After you get the distance, you will need to find the width of that wall. As for the length, most of the time you will be able to see where the walls interject to know where they start and stop. It's best to see this in action. In the PDF file, you will take the measurement from one of the exterior walls to the interior wall. Let's do this one, as it seems to span across 3 different offices. Find the measurement tool again, and find the distance between the exterior wall and the wall we have selected. It looks to be about 11 feet 10 inches. We will also need to know the width. This looks to be about 5 inches. Now, let's return to Maptician. We will be directionally duplicating the top exterior wall. This is going to be one of your more useful shortcuts for map creation. To directionally duplicate the wall, you will need to have it selected. Then you will hold down the control button as well as the arrow for the direction you want the wall to duplicate in. A pop-up will appear asking for information. In this case, we are duplicating the wall downwards by 11 feet 10 inches, since 11 feet 10 inches was the interior distance between the 2 walls. Input that as well as the new wall width, which is 5 inches. For the wall angle, we will be duplicating a wall that is parallel to the original, so we can leave the wall angle untouched. Lastly, verify that 11 feet 10 inches was for the interior wall measurements. In this case, you will not need to copy windows or doors. Select Create. You will now see the new wall has been created. Now, we will go back to the PDF and find a converging wall to copy. Like before, you will want to take the distance of one of the exterior walls to the interior wall that you want to create. Let's go ahead and complete this row of offices. The distance of the right exterior wall to the first wall is 6 foot 8 inches. We will go back to Maptician and use the directional duplicate shortcut again. In this case, we will select the right wall and then press Ctrl and the left arrow key. For the distance, you will input 6 foot 8 inches. The wall thickness will be 5 inches again, as it looks to be about the same as the last interior wall we created. Again, we will leave the angle the same as we're duplicating parallel walls. You will see that the wall has been duplicated and it's the same length as the original. However, the wall we're trying to replicate needs to end at its intersection with this wall. All we need to do is select it, go down to the end, grab the dot by clicking it, and then drag it to where the wall intersects. Now you officially have the walls of your first enclosed space. For the following steps, we will simply be directionally duplicating this newly finished wall since they're all attached to the same two walls on the top and bottom sides. For good measure, let's go over the steps quickly again. Go to Bluebeam and take the distance of this new wall to the wall that you want to create. We see that it's 10 feet now. We can assume the wall thickness is still 5 inches. Return to Maptician and select the wall you just made, then press Ctrl and the left arrow key. In the pop-up menu, you will fill in 10 feet for the distance. Keep the same wall thickness and orientation and then click Create. Now you should have your second enclosed space. Repeat these steps for the remaining two walls. You will see that this last wall doesn't actually end at the horizontal wall we've been using, but extends to create the leftmost wall of the conference space that we see in the original file. To see where that wall actually ends, we will be directionally duplicating the top wall again, but this time according to the dimensions of the last room. Take the measurement from the top wall down to this new bottom wall that we want to create. That distance is 17 foot 11 inches. We will take that to Maptician. Click the top wall, then Ctrl plus the downward arrow, and input 17 foot 11 inches. Since the top wall is an exterior wall, the thicknesses are not the same as the new wall we want to create. Make sure you change that to our interior thickness of 5 inches. Then click Create. Now, you will see that the new wall has been created. You will take the last vertical wall we made and drag it down to this new wall. You don't need the new wall to be the length of the building, so you will select it, grab the end dot, and bring it back to the wall intersection we just created. Finally, you see that the other horizontal wall that the other office is aligned to is cutting into this conference room. Select that wall and then drag the endpoint to the leftmost wall of the room. Now, the last step to finish off this first row of rooms is to create the last wall for the conference room. Coincidentally, this will also be the leftmost wall of the map. As you can see, it continues down into the lobby area for this office. Like the last several steps, we will take the dimensions that we need from Bluebeam. In this case, it's 10 foot 3 inches. It's important to note that while this is the leftmost wall of the floor plan, you can see that the wall thickness is still 5 inches. This is because this office space is part of a much bigger building floor plan. In some cases, you will be dealing with an entire floor, and other times it will be portions of a floor like this. Let's go to Maptician and create the left wall. We will need to shorten the bottom wall so that it stops at the wall we just created. If you remember, the left wall actually extends downward to encompass the lobby. We will be duplicating the bottom wall of the conference room to create the bottom wall of the lobby now. Take the distance from Bluebeam, then go to Maptician and place it. Now extend the leftmost wall to the end of the new wall that we've created. Now return to Bluebeam. You can see that the width of the lobby we created is actually wider than the conference room you just finished. You can take the distance from the leftmost wall to that wall and then directionally duplicate it from there. Take the bottom wall of the lobby and extend it to the new wall that you just created. Now you can select the new wall, click on the top end of it, and drag it down to about the length that you've seen in the original file. Now you've completed the top section of this map. You will need to keep repeating the last few steps over and over again until you've completed the wall architecture of this map. You can watch me do it here, and I will return once we've completed those steps. Now that we've completed the basic walls, let's go through and add the doorways, desks, and pieces of furniture to the floor plan. I'll be starting first with doors. To add, you will need to select the wall that you want to add the door to. On the Wall Info tab, you will see that the wall information has 3 buttons pop up beneath. Select Add Door. A door will appear at the end of the wall. Use your mouse to drag the door to its placement. Click and drop it where it should go. You may notice that the door is not in the correct positioning. In order to access the door settings, you will need to click on the door itself. You will then see the Door Information tab appear. There, you can change the hinge type and change the angle to match what's in the original file. You can also click and drag on the door itself to change the door angle. If you find that the door needs to be bigger, use the Dimension section to change the size of the door. You can continue this process until all of your doors are placed. If you have many doors that need to be placed along the same wall and that have similar positioning, you can also use the duplicate shortcut to create a copy, that's Ctrl-D. The copy will be made directly above the original. Select it and drag it to your desired placement. If you come across a different type of door, like this double door, you would go about creating a door as normal. Make sure you get the dimensions of it. In this case, the double doors are 4 feet wide. Go to Maptician and place a door based on the previous directions. Then, you will go to the Door Info and select Double Door in Door Type. Adjust the angle if needed. Let's move on to some other details. How about we start by adding the stairwell at the bottom of the map? You can find stairwells under Objects, Architecture, Stairwell. The stairwell will appear on your mouse arrow. You can click to place it onto the canvas. You'll need to adjust the orientation and dimensions of the stairwell. To do that, you have 2 options. You can do it through the Stairwell Dimensions tab by adjusting the angle, width, and length with the exact numbers. Alternatively, you can drag these endpoints to edit the stairwell. We will be doing that initially, and then fine-tuning using the Dimensions tab. First, let's rotate the stairwell by 90 degrees. You can drag this dot or input 90 degrees in the angle input. Now drag the stairwell to the space made for it. You will see that the stairwell wants to snap to the edges formed by the walls. Right now, the stairwell is a little too big. You can click the dots along the edges and adjust the sizes. Let's go ahead and fix the width and length. Now you have your stairwell. Let's go ahead and cover how to place and edit furniture within a floor plan. First, you're going to locate the Furniture tab under Objects. Here, you will find all the furniture you need to outfit your floor plan to a usable level. In our original file, you can see that there are 6 cubicles in the middle of the open space. Let's work on those. Firstly, you'll need to find the dimension of one of them. It seems that they're all uniform, so once you have the dimension of one, you can do all 6. Now that you have the dimensions, go to Maptician and locate Cubicle. When you click on it, you will see that a cubicle will appear on your mouse arrow. Click to drop it onto the canvas. Locate the cubicle dimensions area and fill in the dimensions for length and width. Now, I will show you a shortcut for quickly creating cubicles that are adjacent to each other like we see in this map. We will first make sure that the first cubicle is in the correct place on the floor. You can definitely eyeball it if the measurements are not crucial to you. You can also use the grid dimensions on the canvas to move it accurately and easily. To do that, you will place the cubicle right up against a corner formed by these walls. To have this work correctly, you will need 2 walls as references for the X and Y axis movement. In Bluebeam, find the distance from the vertical wall to the correct cubicle placement. Now go ahead and also find the distance from the horizontal wall to the correct cubicle placement. You will see that this is 7'2" and 7'3" respectively. Now, we will return to Maptician and find the Grid Controls tab. There, we will change the canvas grid to 7'2". You see that there is now a visible grid of 7'2" squares along the map canvas. Select the cubicle and press the left arrow key once. The cubicle should move over 1 grid unit, or in this case 7'2 inches. Now go back to the grid controls and make it 7'3 inches. Select the cubicle and press the arrow key down once. Now the cubicle has moved 7'3 inches downwards and it is placed in the correct location. To quickly create the other 5 cubicles, you will select the original one. Once selected, you will press Ctrl and then the arrow direction for the next cubicle. This is identical to the directional duplicate shortcut that we've used for walls. However, when cubicles are selected, the duplicate will be directly adjacent to the original and share a common wall. For this case, I will be duplicating the other cubicles by pressing Ctrl left, Ctrl down, Ctrl right, Ctrl down, and then Ctrl left again. As you can see in the original files, the cubicles have openings. In Maptician, those are called entrances. Let's go ahead and add those now. Just select the cubicle, click Add Entrance, and click to place the entrance on the wall you want. To adjust its size, you can enter exact dimensions, or just extend the entrances along the entire side of the cubicle like how we're doing now. Now you have your cubicles. Let's go ahead and cover how to manipulate desks in order to place them within this space. For desks, you will go into the Furniture tab, select the Desk button, and drop the desk where you want it on the canvas. Just from eyeballing, I know that the desk needs to be rotated 90 degrees and be placed about the center of the cubicle. From the original file, I will also see that the width of the desk is the same as the width of the cubicle, so we can expand it in that direction. I do, however, need to go find the desk length from the original file because mine looks a bit off. The length is about 5 foot 11 inches. I'll adjust my desk accordingly in Maptician and recenter it in the cubicle. Now, the remaining desks seem to be identical, so we can simply duplicate them using our keyboard shortcut Ctrl-D. A copy of the desk will appear. You can place it next to the cubicle and use your arrow keys to fine-tune the placement if you'd like. Now would be a good time to tackle placing tables in an environment. The adjustments for tables are very similar to desks, with the added levels of customization. Luckily, we have to place a large table in the conference room at the top end of the floor plan, so let's go ahead and get the dimensions of that table. Then we will find the Table button in the Furniture tab. Place the table where you want it so we can input the correct dimensions and fix its orientation. Now it's clear to see that the table in our original file has rounded corners and chairs placed along it. Once you've gotten the dimensions and orientation correct, go to the Table Display tab and click on Rounded for table type. You can now go over to the Chair tab. Maptician will automatically calculate how many chairs comfortably fit around the table. You can click Set Chairs and input the chairs you want up until the max number designated by Maptician and then click Add Seats. They will automatically be placed around the table. In this situation, we added 6 seats, although there are 8 seats in the original. If you really need 8 seats, you can manually add 2 more seats. Now you have a conference table completed with chairs. For the remainder of the rooms, we will cover an assortment of furniture so that you have a look into how each of these pieces can be edited. It will not necessarily match the original file, but we'll keep it open just in case we need to get additional reference dimensions for our floor plan. Going through the list, we've already touched on cubicles and desks. Let's go over L desks. These are the most common in private offices. You can find them with the rest of the furniture in the Furniture tab. You just have to click on the button and place the L desk where you'd like. Now, the controls are very similar with all pieces of furniture. You have these dots along the corners and edges that you can drag to change the size, as well as the floating point to select and rotate the entire desk. What's new with this piece of furniture is the yellow points. These allow you to add curves to the inner corners of the L desk for further customization. As well, the L desk information will also give you a place to input direct measurements, change the display colors, and turn on the dimension labels if desired. Moving into the next row, we did a table in the conference room. Let's go ahead and go to the cabinets. This item is very straightforward with the ability to change length, width, orientation, and display colors. Cabinets are great for any storage units that floor plans may have. In some cases, people actually use walls of cabinets as faux architecture to divide rooms and designate zone boundaries. Let's move into chairs. Currently, this is our template for a standard chair. It's got a back and 2 arms that you can toggle on or off. The settings here mainly involve the chair rotation and display settings. In the future, we hope to have a variety of chair templates to choose from, as well as the ability to change the 2 foot by 2 foot dimensions of the chairs itself. When that happens, you will be able to see it in the Chair Information tab, like all of the other settings we've seen so far. Next in our list is the sofa. Similar to the chairs, we have a standard sofa style available, but with the added capability of changing dimensions and toggling between 3, 2, and 1 cushions. All other settings are the same. You can change the display color, turn on the labels, etc. In our original PDF here, we actually have a couple of big chairs in the lobby. This is a great example of how to recreate them using the sofa feature. Let's get the dimensions from the original PDF. We have a width of 2 foot 6 inches and a length of 2 foot 4. Now on the sofa, we will adjust those dimensions. Go over to the cushion settings and bring it down to 1. Now let's drag it over to its general placement and rotate it slightly. We can duplicate this by using Ctrl-D and bring the second one down to the correct measure. Now to cover our bases, we can quickly drop a little coffee table. It looks to be about 2 feet by 2 feet. Drop the table, change its dimensions, and place it where it should go. You can do fine-tuning by shifting things with your arrow key, and you're good to go. The next furniture piece is the refrigerator. For that, we will go down into the break room. In some floor plans, you will be shown the exact details of the break room, including kitchen counters, sinks, fridges, vending machines, etc. In Maptician, we have some of those things that have proved to be the most valuable. Those include fridges, like you see here in the Furniture tab, as well as counters and sinks, which you can find in the Architecture tab. For demonstration purposes, we will go through the process of outfitting this break room with a counter, sink, and fridge, as well as go through placing tables and chairs again for good measure. Let's start with the counter that we see on the left side of the room. Find the counter in Architecture, rotate it 90 degrees, snap it to the corner, and bring out the edges to the other side. Let's get a reference measurement for its width. It looks like 2 foot 1 inches. Bring out the side to that dimension, and there you go. Chances are there will probably be a sink on this counter, so let's go ahead and add that now. Sink is right by the counter button. Place it and then change the angle and size to where it aligns with the counter and is the right dimensions. Now, let's add a fridge to this space. Go back to the furniture and find the fridge. Drop it where you would like it to be. Adjust its orientation, and if needed, you can change the dimensions. For this case, we'll leave it as the standard fridge size. Now, let's finish off the space with the tables and chairs. Since we've gone over this already, I'll just go ahead and do it quickly. There you go, now you have a full break room. Now for the last piece of furniture. Let's pretend that this floor plan encompasses sleeping quarters. This would be the case for any shelters, clinics, or other community organizations that chooses to use Maptician for their occupant management. We have in our furniture chest a bed object. Clicking this will drop a bed in the environment with the same customization capabilities as the rest of the furniture pieces, adjusting size, orientation, color, etc. However, there is an added feature that helps with the implementation of social distancing guidelines. This feature came about during the COVID-19 pandemic that we're experiencing during the creation of this video. To locate the tools, you will have to have the bed selected. Then go to the Distancing tab. There you can toggle on social distancing to see a zone formed around the bed. The distancing labels will show you the distance from the edge of the bed to the edge of the circle. This circle will be visible in the map viewer to anyone who's seeing the map. Selecting Editor Dist Only will show the circle while only in the map editor. You can change the radius of the circle here as well. It's important to note that the radius is calculated from the center of the bed outwards. For the case of this floor plan, we can assume that these are private rooms. Because there are walls dividing the beds, we can disregard the distancing bubble if we'd like. It's best to use them when you have a multitude of beds, like communal dorms. Now we've touched on all the available pieces of furniture. Let's finish off the floor plan with added desks. This will be useful when deciding where seats will go in the last stage of the floor plan process. We will do this pretty quickly. Please note that I'm not placing chairs in front of the desks right now. This is mainly because the seat icons will cover the chairs themselves when we place them on the map. Now that we have all the furniture in place, let's go ahead and designate rooms and zones. Designating rooms and zones will allow Maptician to track spaces with different characteristics, as well as keep up with what's reservable and also areas that are strictly designated for certain categories of people, like departments in the case of office use. In terms of visuals, adding rooms and zones will allow you to see room labels on the map, which is handy when wayfinding while using the floor plan. Let's start by creating a room. Our original PDF here on the right does not have any labels, so we will be using our best judgment. Let me go ahead and expand to the whole screen for this part. I'm using an ultra-wide monitor, so apologies for the weird formatting. If you're using a PDF file with the floor plan already labeled, then I would encourage you to keep yours open for reference. To start, you will need to go to the Objects tab and then go to Areas. There, you will find the Zone and Room buttons. Let's go ahead and select Draw Room. You will see that your arrow now has a red dot. You will locate a corner of the room and click to begin drawing. Each dot should go to a corner, as the drawing tool will create a straight line to connect the dots. To finish the room, click down the last dot, and then right-click or press Enter to have the room connect the last dot to the first one. It's important to close the room this way, otherwise you will continue to keep drawing with the tool. Once the room is created, you can go to the Room Info tab to give it its name. Designate the room type and assign it to the department if applicable. Don't worry if you don't have any departments yet, this can be done at a later date. If the room is intended to be reservable, you can go ahead and activate that designation. As well, if there's an intended room capacity, whether for seating or safety reasons, you can input that here. This will help in the future when people are looking to reserve rooms according to room capacity or any other specific characteristics. Completing these steps on the first tab will give you the minimum amount of information you need to get this up and running. Once the map is active, you can come back and add to the Image tab. Here, you can upload an image of the room to give people an idea of what it looks like before reserving. The other 3 tabs are customization tabs to edit the labels, room coloring, and other visual features. There is no need to edit these if you simply are setting up a rudimentary map. Let me go ahead and do a couple more rooms so you have a better understanding of the tool and its use. I'm going to go back to the Areas tab and select Draw Room. We're going to be making the room adjacent to the conference room we just made. Let's call this Eccentric Office. It's going to be a private office, no department yet. And we will be assigning someone specific to it, so we won't need to make it reservable. Let's have the capacity be set at 1, since this person does not have additional seating available for anyone. Now that's complete. I'm going to move on to the remaining rooms, naming and labeling them accordingly. For these rooms with beds, we can get creative with how they're going to be used. For the first one, I will designate it as a single-person room, meaning this will be one bed with one person assigned to it. For the second room, I will assume that a family could be assigned here. These beds can also double as bunk beds. We can add a second set, and now this room capacity goes from 1 to 4 people. Lastly, let's pretend that the last room is going to be a shared bedroom with one set of bunk beds. This can now be designated as a shared room with a capacity of 2. Now that the rooms are completed, let's create zones. This process is very similar to the room creation process. We will go to Areas and then select Draw Zone. Click the corners of the space you want to enclose, then right-click or enter to complete it when you get to the last dot. Go ahead and name it accordingly. In the Zone Info section, you will see that there are less settings to shift through here. When and if you create departments, you can go back and designate departments for these zones if you'd like. The rest of the settings are here to customize the appearance of these zones on the map itself. We have marked the lobby and this cluster of cubicles in the middle of the map. Now, all that's left to do is drop data points in the map, specifically seats and any points of interest that are crucial for the usability of your map. Before we can go to the last section, let me remind you about a couple things pertaining to the map editor and some of its shortcuts. As I've mentioned in a previous video, we do have a text document with all of the available shortcuts for both Windows and Mac interfaces. This list is a little lengthy to address entirely here, but before we move on to the final phase, I want to make sure that I touch on one more shortcut that is very similar to the directional duplicate one that we've demonstrated at the beginning of the video. Let's use this open space in the middle of the floor plan. For most of the furniture pieces in Maptician, we actually have the capability of duplicating the object and placing it at a certain distance away from the original. For example, let's place this desk here. I want an entire column of desks to appear behind it, each 6 feet apart to make sure that we're abiding by social distancing guidelines. All you have to do is select the desk, then press Ctrl and the direction you want to duplicate the desks towards, just like a directionally duplicating wall. A window will appear to ask for the distance between each desk, as well as the number of desks you want to create. Let's see if I can fit 6 more desks here. Now, you automatically have a column of desks, all 6 feet apart. It's a simple shortcut that's worth mentioning if you're in a position where you have to create entire rooms full of bunk beds, desks, or other furniture that needs to be quickly laid out with repetitive spacing. Let's go ahead and leave these here as we move into our final section of this video, designating seats and assigning points of interest. For this section, we will be in the Data section under Objects. The most important data points will be seats. These are empty seat icons that will be assignable to occupants in the system. To add seats, we just click the Seat button. A seat will appear on your arrow. Place it where you'd like. Now, while the seat is selected, you will be able to see the Seat Info tab where you can change the name of the seat, add a seat extension if it's necessary in your office, and designate the seat type. In this case, we're going to set it to private because it's a private office. Open would designate an open workplace. Workstation could be seen as part of a desk cluster or cubicle cluster. Shared would designate a seat that is located in a shared office, and etc. If you want to restrict a seat to a certain department, you can do that here. If the seat is meant to be a permanent assignment, you can select Assignable as the seat usage. If it's meant to be a hot desk or reservable, designating it as a reservable seat would be ideal for you. This would allow occupants themselves to reserve the usage of that seat if they have a user account to your organization's Maptician environment. The Assignment tab brings you to a place where you can go ahead and add an occupant to this seat. However, it's recommended that you do that through the Seating Assignments Manager and not through here. Labels and display show you how to customize what you want the seat icons to look like. I'm going to go ahead and set the default template to be small for the icon and bring down the font size. This will be especially beneficial when placing seats in a denser environment. Let's go ahead and place seats around the rest of the floor plan where we want people to be assigned. For this, I will be using the seat shortcut keys, so I don't have to keep returning to the right navigation menu to press the seat button. The shortcut is Ctrl-E. Pressing this will bring a new seat to your arrow so that you can place it in its next location. While I'm doing this, note the numbering system that the seats have. Maptician will automatically name seats in numerical order, and you can change those names manually. The numbers are based on the number of seats you've tried to create in the floor plan. My numbers here have jumped from 1 to 23 because I placed 22 seats before actually recording my screen. After I deleted those seats, the next seat number in the sequence was 23, hence 23 being the next number after 1. I see that the font is a little too large for my liking. To change everyone's setting at once, I will select a seat and then press Shift-A. This shortcut will select every object of the same type as the first one that you originally selected. In this case, this is seats. Now, I can quickly go through and change the font size as well as the text that's visible beneath the icons. With these changes, we can now see the floor plan a little better. I want to draw your attention to the bedroom area of the map. Here, you will note that some of the seating patterns I've created you may encounter in the future, one of which is being the double seats to the bed object. This is to account for the bunk beds that we want in these places. So now the family room that has a desired capacity of 4 has 4 available seats for assignment in that room. Now it's also clear why we didn't add chairs to the desks. The seat icons have been placed where chairs traditionally would go, so you will no longer be able to see a chair if one was there. The last thing we can place to finish off our map are map links and points of interest. These are items that could contain valuable information that occupants can refer to when using the map. This could include restrooms. So let's go ahead and put restrooms outside of this suite since we didn't have one in our original file. Here, you can put in the details of the restroom. Other items could include a break room and the specific details pertaining to that. For the sake of time, we won't go through the entire list. But with these few, you can see how important some of this information can be to creating a useful floor plan. And with that, we have a completed map. There's definitely some fine-tuning that could be done in terms of making this more aesthetically pleasing, but for our use, this is perfectly fine. Now, in order to have this map ready for assignments, you will have to activate it. Activating the map will make it visible within your organization's Maptician environment, as well as make the map available for seat assignments. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to a Maptician team member. As well, we encourage you to go through and explore the map editor on your own, as it becomes easier to use the more you're exposed to it. Follow along to the next video, where we will cover how to upload occupants to your environment and then assignment to the seats within our new floor plan.